अनंत संसार समुद्र तार नौकायिताभ्यां गुरुभक्तिदाभ्यां वैराग्य साम्राज्यद पूजनाभ्यां नमो नमः श्री गुरुपादुकाभ्यां कवित्ववारासिनिसाकराभ्यां दौर्भाग्यदावां बुधमालिकाभ्यां दूरीकृतानम्रविपतिताभ्यां नमो नमः श्री गुरुपादुकाभ्यां. Ladies and gentlemen, in my last episode I tried to answer the questions of self-management related to Srimad Bhagavad Gita, and today I will be talking the remaining two important questions that is very much essential to understand about where we find the emotional self-control in Gita and what are the management lessons for us. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mitra Bandhu Paudel. Welcome to this special episode of the essence of the Bhagavad Gita in management. And in my previous presentation I briefly talked about the working memory as well, and the importance of amygdala and prefrontal region. That's we discussed in our last episode. Now let's talk about where do we find the emotional self-control in Bhagavad Gita. In Bhagavad Gita, the concept of emotional self-control has been taken as pathway of emotional stability. The scripture teaches that a person obtains emotional stability or sthit pragya as a result of controlling or managing their number one senses, number two desires, number three anger, and number four mind, according to Sivakumar 2021. Let's talk about the first issue, which is control of sense. Chapter 2 verse 58 talks about to control the senses. It states that one who is established in divine wisdom has the ability to remove the senses from their objects in the same way that a tortoise withdraws its limbs from its shell. When Bhagwan was showing his Vishwarup to Arjuna, he says, Arjuna, since I am pleased with you by the power of Yogamaya, I have shown you a glimpse of my radiant, boundless and primordial cosmic form. You are the first person to ever view it. Chapter 11 verse 47. Swami Mukundananda in his commentary of this particular verse states, since Arjuna had grown frightened and pleaded for the cosmic form to be concealed, Sri Krishna now calms him by reassuring him that there is no need to be afraid. He had graciously granted Arjuna a vision of his global form because he was a very good boy and not as a form of punishment. By claiming that Arjuna is the first person to see the universal form, he employs exaggeration as a figure of speech to emphasize how uncommon it is to do so. Although Yashoda and Duryodhan were also granted a vision of the universal form, it lacked this level of profundity, intensity and size. Arjuna is still being confronted by Sri Krishna, who says that rather than being afraid, he should feel honored to have seen the cosmic form. He also commands Arjuna to look at his own body once more and let go of his fear. Chapter 11 verse 49. Second is the control of desire. Chapter 2 verse 55 suggests to control the desire. The Supreme Lord stated, O Partha, one is said to be transcendently situated or sthit pragya when they let go of all the self-centered impulses and cravings that torture their minds and find fulfillment in self-realization. Bhagwan further reminds Arjuna, even the most astute people might have their knowledge obscured by this constant enemy, which takes the form of an unquenchable yearning that never ends and burns like fire. O son of Kunti, chapter 3 verse 39, desire never makes anyone happy because it burns like an unquenchable fire. The wise forego it, understanding that it is the cause of their sorrow. However, individuals who are unaware of this secret waste their lives attempting in vain to appease their lust. Mukundananda 2014. Bhagwan in chapter 3 verse 41 clearly mentions, therefore, O greatest of the Bharatas, control the senses right now and slaughter this enemy known as desire, which is the physical manifestation of sin and eliminates wisdom and realization. The third issue is the anger management. Anger management. Chapter 2 verse 56 talks about anger management. A person is referred to as a sage of steady wisdom if their mind is unaffected by suffering, they don't want pleasure, and they are free from attachment, fear and rage. Further in chapter 2 verse 62, Bhagwan says, one grows attached to the items of the senses while thinking about them. Anger develops from desire, which is a result of attachment. In the next verse, it is said that anger impairs judgment, which causes memory to become confused. Memory confusion leads to intellectual destruction, and intellectual destruction leads to ruin. So one has to control anger. The fourth issue is about the mind management. In chapter 2 verse 57, it has clearly been stated, a person with perfect knowledge is one who is unattached at all times and who does not feel joy from fortune or sorrow from suffering. Chapter 2 verse 64 states that one who masters their thoughts and is unattached and averse to everything, even when employing objects of the senses, achieves God's grace. Arjuna acknowledged that it was extremely difficult to manage his mind since it was so active, rebellious, strong and independent. He compared it to trying to check the wind. Krishna is responding to Arjuna with his affirmation, O mighty armed son of Kunti, what you say is true. The mind is in fact extremely difficult to control, but it can be managed by the practice and detachment. Chapter 6 verse 35, that chapter is basically tells about the practice of yoga and meditation. I personally like that chapter. Now the next question that we really need to answer is what are the management lessons for us? Controlling or managing your senses make you aware and alert of good and bad things, ethical and unethical practice, moral and immoral behavior. Similarly, once you manage or control your desire, you will refrain from attaining unwanted attention, greed and self-centered attitude. You will create an environment where employees selflessly perform their duties. Such environment will be favorable for a seed to grow good governance at the workplace. You as a responsible leader need to control your desire. In addition to this, it is necessary to control anger at the workplace in order to create a peaceful working environment. By doing so, productive goals will be attained. Moreover, it is highly important that mind management is equally essential for managers. Emotionally self-controlled managers can meaningfully manage his or her mind. Yoga and meditation could be the solution. Geeta not only talks about the consequences of these issues, but also gives the complete procedure to practice meditation and yoga in chapter 6, which I already mentioned. Science has proven the fact that when you engage yourself in such activities, your brain gets adequate oxygen and you remain happy. So I just suggest leaders to walk around in the forest or we assign in the sports activities, so that your brain will get a lot of oxygen and you will be feeling so happy. In a nutshell, what I would like to suggest leaders is get rid of any sense of superiority, avoid hypocrisy at all cost, refrain from torturing animals, maintain a quiet manner, keep your faith and commitment, pay attention to both internal and outward hygiene, and exert control over your body as well as your mind and senses. Verse 7 of chapter 13 summarizes this. From management perspective, we can learn that the purpose of our life is our right duties and responsibilities. Our goals and most essentially peaceful coexistence with fellow individuals. Thus, I believe that this sort of duties and responsibilities are very important in the workplace. With this, let me conclude this episode. Om Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Santi, Om Santi, Om Santi. Thank you very much.